Good morning and welcome to episode 51 of the Jaguar Report podcast. Your Jacksonville Jaguars are undefeated to start the 2023 NFL season. We're going to break down the week 1 win over the Colts for you. My name's Gus Logue. I'm joined by my co-host John Shipley. John, how are you doing 1 week into the season?
51 episodes. I know it's literally a weekly bit, but still, how has this been?
And now you saying that it's a weekly bit is becoming a thing in itself.
It is. It's a good time. It's a good time.
We just got.
I mean, week 1, honestly, it kind of flew by, and I also kind of enjoyed that they were playing on the road. I got to watch some of the other games and see some of the pure slop that was week 1 of the NFL season. What a disgusting week of football in all senses.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Especially last night, too, to round it all up.
Dude.
Woof.
The best thing has been the Zach Wilson optimism. Like, it took, 4 or 5 Josh Allen turnovers for Zach Wilson to put together a drive where he didn't trip over and, break his nose on the field. Like, it was a good week for takes. It was. And, unsurprisingly, I think most people probably picked for the AFC South to go winless other than the Jaguars in week 1. I mean, Houston obviously played Baltimore. I don't think many people picked Houston. They played Baltimore tough. Like, kind of like, personally, I think, you could probably expect. Like, did you see anything from that game? Like, Will Anderson was a demolition. Man,
probably the best player on the field.
Yeah, like, if you're looking at like toughest matchups for Anton Harrison in his rookie year, Will Anderson's already like nearly at the top of the list.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's I think Next Gen Stats said he had like the most pressures of any rookie pass rusher in his debut in like the last handful of years. And then Tennessee lost to the Saints in a game that, if anybody has time, go back and watch the condensed version. It is a hilarious, pure, like, there's no good football played on that field, and it is just good stuff. I mean,
it's so bad. Do not go back and watch the Titans win.
No, please go watch it.
3 interception performance from Tannehill.
I highly endorse that game, man. Trevor Penning versus Arden Key. Like, I saw like the pressure stats, and they were like outrageous. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's not that bad. Then I see some of the clips, and I'm like, oh, this dude's unplayable.
That was probably like the biggest mismatch of week 1 for any unit.
Yeah, I mean, Arden Key versus the Jaguars, this will be a good battle, man. He's still feel like he's an ascending player, but this, there, or that. So, like you said, Jaguars came away with the win. Do you remember what your score prediction was?
Mine was 34-17. So
okay.
off by 3 or 4 both ways. And yours was 30-17. So you were a little closer.
Okay. I mean, honestly, like, if at the end of the day, when you like look at like the sum of the game, I really think a big part of it was, expectations for the Jaguars is why a lot of people, came away looking worried. And there were some like befuddling drives. Tank Bigsby's 2 turnovers were terrible, but in my staff predictions this week, I wrote, I don't think this is a game the Jaguars are just going to absolutely cruise through, but I also don't think the Colts had the secondary to keep up with the Jaguars offense. They didn't have it to keep up with Ridley. I expect Anthony Richardson to make things interesting at times with explosive plays, but ultimately it'll be hard for a rookie quarterback and a rookie head coach to keep pace with Trevor and Doug. Jaguars win a game that might be close to halftime, but they pull away in the second half. Yeah, I mean, it kind of honestly didn't play out like that differently. Like the screenplay wasn't a bomb. We'll get to it. Like we got to the result I expected, but a very like different way, because it definitely looked like after the Bigsby fumble, I was like, okay, there's a very real chance this could unravel.
Right. It seemed like there was like a 50-50 chance they were going to win or lose in like about the middle of the third quarter. And then they ended up scoring back-to-back touchdowns through Tank and then ETN, and it was a 10-point ball game. And then by the end, it was kind of a sloppy performance by the Jaguars, but they still put up 31 points. And like we said earlier, like every team besides the Dolphins and the Chargers, like looked pretty sloppy in week 1. So all things considered, like they had a pretty decent outing.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously look at it. They're not high up in EPA play, anything EPA per play or anything like that. Like they're in the 20s offensively. That's obviously you turn it over twice, one time for a touchdown, you're going to get dinged for. So they obviously weren't, lighting things up. But overall, you look at the end result. I mean, a 10-point win, 31 points on the road to a place when you haven't been, very good. The defense only really gave up 14 points because 7 of those points were on one of the stupidest plays that ever happened. And
That was
not to say what he did was stupid, but like the entire play was a stupid thing. Because I
yeah,
personally, I thought the play was over. Like obviously there wasn't a whistle, but it felt like to me like everybody's just standing there, he's kind of giving himself up,
right.
and it kind of seemed like the dude who knocked the ball out even knocked it out and was like staring at it. And then DeForest Buckner just kind of picked it up and ran with it. So, I mean, the big news, Gus, obviously, before the game was that Press Taylor would be calling plays for the Jaguars offense. Doug said in the NFL.com piece, and I said since that Press called plays in second halves of games last year. Like he even said yesterday, like this isn't his first time doing it. Don't misunderstand that, etc. But yesterday was still, I mean, not yesterday, Sunday was still the first time he called like a full game as the official Jaguars play caller, whatever you want to call it. I mean, what do you make of really all of that and what the offense showed in week one?
In terms of the Press Taylor stuff, I'm trying to like think of it of a non-story because like I did post something about it on Sunday morning on Big Cat Country, but like at the end of the day, I kind of feel like regardless of what the quotes are and what the like news from Rappaport is, like Doug has like oversees the offense and like
Yeah.
the final decisions come down to him. So like even if Press is technically calling a lot of the plays that happen in the game, like Doug isn't like pointing it out to him right before each play call and saying like, "Ooh, I think this one could be good." But like in the meetings throughout the week, like it's clearly like a collaborative effort, and then like it comes down to Peterson, and it's more of like Press Taylor executing Peterson's vision, even if like Press Taylor is calling the plays. And so like I feel like if anything, like people were just using Press and like that story as a scapegoat for some like offensive woes that happened during the game. So like I'm trying not to like really pay that much attention to that story. And in terms of just the Jags offense in general, uh, they were not quite as efficient as we're used to seeing between the 20s, and those two ugly turnovers were definitely a big part of it. But then like Trevor had one or two misses on outside throws to Ridley to like for the offense to get off the field, and there was like that one drive where they just had three straight tank runs for 3 and out, which like that was just atrocious.
That was
Um,
the funniest drive of the game.
yeah, so in between the 20s was like they still ended up being fine, but they were just so good between the 20s last year that you thought maybe it would be look a little bit cleaner, even if it was week one. But in the red zone, like holy cow, that was the biggest difference in like this game versus last year to me, because last year the Jags were one of the worst teams at converting red zone drives into touchdowns. And then this game they had 3 red zone drives and 3 touchdowns. There was the Lawrence throw to Ridley on the bootleg to the left. There was the Lawrence throw to Zay Jones in the corner of the end zone. And then there was Tank Bigsby where he like pushed the pile and the refs never called the whistle. And then like immediately after that play, he just punched it in from 1 yard out. So to me, I think that was like the big key of the game was how they performed in the red zone, especially since they weren't a red zone team last year. And like hats off to Tank because like those were two of the worst turnovers you'll ever see, let alone in the same game. But then in the second half, he ended up like doing what the Jaguars envisioned him to do on their team, which was like be the between the tackles grinder that just punches it into the end zone. So I was really encouraged by what I saw from the red zone offense.
I love that you brought up that Tank Bigsby, carried a. I mean, it was a big play of the game. It set up like first, like a fresh set of downs at the one. But
Yeah.
if you go back and watch it, it's like Brenton Strange basically like grabbing Tank Bigsby like he's getting ready for like a German suplex and just like dragging him and several Colts defenders. Which brings me, Gus, to this week's edition of Bulky Ball. Would you rather have any of Tyreek Stevenson, John Michael Schmitz, can't tell you who that is,
Yeah.
Luke
What
Shoemaker,
are these the players?
Cyrus Lawrence, or DJ Turner, or a week one win for the Jaguars?
Oh, come on.
You
You
just
can't
got
tell me that, like,
bulky
if
ball.
Stevenson or Turner got drafted, like, they would have left without a W.
You just got bulky ball.
You're
They
not
don't
getting
win
the
that
ball.
game
No,
without. They
no,
don't win
no.
that
I'm not
game
getting
without
bulky ball
Brenton
here. I
Strange.
would rather have Stevenson or Turner. Like, I would still rather have another young corner
So
than
they're worth.
the
So
third
they're worth
string.
a whole. They're worth a whole win to you.
Is Brenton Strange worth a whole win to you? I feel like you're the one getting balky balled. Like, what?
No. If you look at the nitty gritty, they won that game because Brenton Strange carried Tank Bigsby like a toddler.
Well, there was he one of the ones that was pushing, or one of the ones
He
that was
was the one pushing. He literally grabs him and pulls him.
there was other people like pulling, some people pushing. It was a whole pile. It wasn't just
You,
Brenton Strange. That's
you
ridiculous.
got masterclass.
No, no, no. This is insane.
You
This
got
is this is the one
masterclass.
time I haven't been masterclass, in my opinion. Maybe we
We'll,
can take it to the polls or something, but
we
I'm
will.
not standing for this balky
We
ball nonsense.
will take it to a poll. Would you rather have Tyreek Stevenson or DJ Turner or a week one win? That's the poll.
That's
That's Pokeball. You got
what's the
masterclass.
next segment?
Yeah.
You got too much fun with this one.
I mean, I mostly agree with you, like on the Press Taylor stuff. Like in my head, I'm really like, how different is it probably from last year? Like at the end of the day, the only people who are hearing the play call are like the coaches and Trevor Lawrence. Like somebody asked A. Jones yesterday, like, could you even tell a difference in play caller? And he was like, no. Like,
Yeah, so
like they don't. Yeah,
yes.
they don't know. They don't know. It doesn't really matter. And like you said, Doug Peterson, like it's literally his offense, like his fingerprints. He's
Mhm.
going to obviously empower his staff members and stuff, try to give them responsibilities. I mean, he's obviously been trying to make Press Taylor offensive coordinator like a thing for some time now. Like he's
Yeah.
an offensive coordinator, but like trying to really elevate him in the ranks. And I think this way, it helps Press Taylor at the very least have that on his resume without really changing too much. So like this didn't look too different from some games they had last year. Like it really for as good as their offense was last year, they had some really weird calls at times.
Mhm.
Like
And a lot of slow starts too.
it, I know it's another probably bit of mine where I compare everything Doug does to Andy Reid, but Andy Reid, same thing, man. He just completely outsmarts himself sometimes. Some drives, like entire drives, you're like, man, what the hell was that? And so it didn't feel like it was that different to me on Sunday, and I really think it's probably more of a semantic difference than anything. So I'm with you, and I thought the offense, like I thought Trevor played really well. Obviously the 2 turnovers were on him. He had a couple of missed throws here and there. The sack wasn't, neither sack was on him. He got rid of the ball like against some intense pressure out of structure sometimes, like that throw he hit to Ridley that, at that crazy window. That
Oh,
he
yeah,
had 2
from the 2
guys.
defenders, not the touchdown.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And he had 2 guys coming right in the middle, the left guard and the center get beat, and he still makes the throw, off platform. The touchdown throw, Evan Ingram was the primary read. He was covered. He's able to, still play on time, out of structure, get the ball to Ridley. I thought it was a really, good game from Lawrence. I think that it kind of showed, where he's at, entering this stage of where he is as a quarterback. And I mean, I guess really that brings us, to the next thing, Calvin Ridley. Like, I thought it was exactly what you should expect. Like there's zero rust. He is able to put cornerbacks like in a blender 1-on-1, and he's finally, the guy who they have that Trevor Lawrence can kind of hit at all levels of the field. Like Trevor Lawrence is, so good at playing on time, no matter if there's pressure, whatever, if he has to get out of structure, he can still be on time, with the concept or, whatever they're trying to accomplish with their routes. And you throw in a guy like Calvin Ridley who, can basically win any kind of route downfield and win any kind of ball. And it is a crazy combination. And their like chemistry is already like seamless.
Yeah.
Like that first deep catch he had was an insane play.
Mhm. And then there was another one. Honestly, I think the most impressive play that they had was the one that was called back for holding. It was similar to that play you're talking about, but this one was on the right sideline, and Ridley, like, faked like he was going long and then kinda
Yeah.
chopped speed as if he was settling, and then went long again, and then came back for the comeback, and he had, like, over 5 yards easily of separation. And then Lawrence had, because on that one that you were describing, like, Lawrence kind of got out of the pocket a little bit just to, like, buy an extra second and then threw it. So it was the same one on this one where Lawrence like bought 1 extra second, rolled out to the right before just like firing it for the easiest completion ever. Um, but yeah, like Ridley did exactly what for this offense what I was hoping he would do because Lawrence finished with a pretty brutal expected points added per play because of the 2 turnovers, but he also had a 56% success rate, which was second in the league behind only Matt Stafford, and it would have been first in the league last year. So he was really good on a down to down basis, and we saw a lot of that last year, but now he's like adding in the explosive passes. Like last year he wasn't really very productive or efficient on throws 20 plus yards downfield. And then on Sunday he was 3 for 3 for 60 something yards and a touchdown, and the other 2 went for first downs. So, like, the fact that he's paired his like down to down consistency from last year with the explosiveness downfield since Ridley's in the building, like those two gelled even better than I could have expected in week 1.
Yeah, and I think like the big thing people have been saying, for Trevor in his first 2 years would get him a downfield weapon. And, like they just really have not had one. Like DJ Chark, everybody was kind of hoping would be that, was injured super early into Lawrence's career.
Mhm.
Never really played with him. And then last year, the downfield options were Marvin Jones, Zay Jones, where, Zay can win on some like deep routes, like double moves here and there, but I don't think you want him to be your primary like guy attacking downfield. And then Christian Kirk, another guy who, he can win vertically from the slot, but he's still more dangerous in the intermediate and underneath. Ridley is a completely, different receiver. Like he's a receiver that Lawrence has never had and downfield. And then you add in everything that he can do at every other level of the field. And it feels like he's about to have a, special season. I mean, just looking at how they spread the ball around. Ridley, they had 32 attempts. Ridley had 11 targets, over 34% of the target distribution. Zay Jones had 7, almost 22%. Evan Ingram and Etienne each had 5 at about 15%. Kirk only had 3 at 9.3%. And then Bigsby had the 1, which obviously was an interception. So not great success rate on throwing the tank Bigsby. But, I mean, Kirk just 3 targets. How surprised were you by maybe his lack of involvement? To me, in my opinion, a lot of it had to do with the Colts are stronger in the middle than they are on the outside. Like their I was really impressed by their linebackers, both of
Oh
them.
my gosh, Zaire Franklin? Holy
Yeah, even EJ Speed, man. I mean, they were flying around, man,
yeah,
in the passing game and running game. Like, and then Kenny Moore is the Colts, best probably, Pac 7 defender, and he plays in the slot. I wasn't too surprised that it wasn't a giant Christian Kirk week. I was surprised that maybe he didn't see a ton of targets, but I think you also saw Trevor. You watch it back. Kirk was still getting open, so Trevor was honestly kind of passing open, like passing over an open Kirk at times to try to push the ball downfield. And I honestly, like, and you look back at the snaps, he played around 60% of snaps. Zay Jones somehow, led them in snaps.
right.
Kirk, played fewer snaps than Evan Ingram. It'll be interesting to watch over the season, but it could be, obviously it'll be a weekly thing how they deploy them, whether it be a Kirk week. It seemed like every week could be a Ridley week, but whether it could be a Kirk week to be featured, whether it could be Zay, whether it could be Evan Ingram. But it really does feel like Kirk's like standing as like this guy was going to get this amount of targets every week is kind of gone, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I've got some more stats to supplement yours. Calvin Ridley ran a route on 97% of dropbacks. Zay Jones was 94%, and Christian Kirk was 66%.
That's
And so
crazy.
I think the biggest thing, because so you can see there that like not just the targets that they earned, but like the route participation were both low for Kirk. And I think the biggest thing for that is just the personnel that they used. Because I know that you mentioned this in the past, but like we saw in the preseason that whenever the Jags went into 12 personnel, having 2 tight ends on the field, then Calvin Ridley and Zay Jones are their 2 receivers that they keep on the field, and Christian Kirk just comes off. So 11 personnel with 3 receivers will be like Jacksonville's primary package, and Kirk will play the majority of snaps. But at the same time, like they're going to keep using these jumbo packages and 12 personnel and less 3 wide receiver sets than like the Rams of late or the Rams of old, I guess, a couple years ago, or like any of these teams that are like super duper high into 11 personnel. So like I don't really know. Like I agree with you that the Colts' strength is in the middle of the field, and that was a big part of Kirk having a quiet day. But because he's not going to see 90% of snaps unless an injury happens to Zay or to Calvin. Like, I don't know how many spike weeks he really has in them.
Yeah, it's because like last year he could play outside at times because you look at him and Marvin, he's still the better option. Now that you add Ridley, it's different. Ingram has the luxury of he can play when they're in 11 personnel, and he can also play when they're in 12 or 13 personnel. So I'm definitely with you. I think it'll be interesting to watch. Moving forward. I
And
think
one more thing is just that Ridley had at least two, if not three, screen targets, and I'm curious if that's like their plan going forward, or if they just wanted to like make sure they involved him in week one to kind of like get him going. Because usually we see those types of like RPO screen targets go to Evan Engram, which he got one or two, or Christian Kirk. And so I'll be looking to see in the future, like if maybe Kirk gets some of those gimme targets a little bit more, or if like they just stay on Calvin's plate.
that's true because I do think there is credence to the fact of, get Calvin going week one and his first game back. So that's a good point. I think outside of, Kirk's involvement and Trevor, the other big thing in Calvin, the other big thing people were talking about was the offensive line. I mean, in my opinion, you look at the pressure numbers and you go back and watch it. Most of the pressures were attributed, to the interior. Ben Bartch gave up 3. He gave up a sack, the strip sack by DeForest Buckner. That was Ben Bartch. Anton Harrison gave up 2 pressures, including a sack. That was, that sack right before halftime to knock them out of field goal range. That was Anton. And then I believe they had Luke Fortner with, I want to say, either 1 or 2 pressures. Luke Fortner had a solid game, I thought, in pass protection. It was more so the running game that he was kind of stagnant in. And then Brandon Sheriff with the 1 pressures and Walker Little with 1 pressure. I posted that, and a lot of people were surprised that, Walker Little, especially, was recorded for 1 pressure. I guess a lot of people came away with the impression of the offensive line did struggle at times. Kwity Paye beat Anton a few times. He was able to, win, kind of in big time moments, kind of plays that really, stick to people's memory. And they were able to win, especially in the interior on passing downs. But you go back and watch it, and other than the play where Walker Little gets beat by Kwity Paye around the edge and gives up the holding on the negated, big shot to Calvin Ridley downfield,
Mhm.
there wasn't any plays where Walker Little really struggled. I thought it was one of his better games, really as a Jaguar started left tackle. And then you look at Anton, he obviously gave up the 2 pressures and the sack. It was, I think, kind of, I'm not going to say what you should expect because I said he would play good. So I'll go ahead and not, dip my toes in that water. He played like a young rookie, right tackle who is obviously, going to have some growing pains. Other than the pressures, on one of Jamal Agnew's 2 touches on 3 offensive snaps, which is still one of the funniest things that they do.
Right.
He was pulling and he just gets completely stood up into a hole, isn't able to finish the block, gets tackled for loss. Other than that, I thought he had some impressive moments, in the running game. He was able to get some movement. Trevor Lawrence had a zone read early in the game that for a first down that, he was able to wall off the linebacker pretty well. So I think the interior definitely struggled in the running game and the passing game at times, but I thought Walker Little played well, and I thought Anton was he was a rookie right tackle. He had some flashes, but he also had some bad moments, and those bad moments were in some of the biggest plays of the game.
Yeah, I don't really take away too much from either of the tackles since they had 6 combined NFL starts going into week one. I am a little bit concerned about the interior offensive line, both in terms of running, because the Jaguars are clearly intent on getting better between the tackles, especially in the red zone. And like just drafting Tank alone isn't going to solve all of that. But then also in pass protection, because we did see Lawrence take a couple shots down the field. At the same time, I was pretty surprised that there wasn't more shots. And like Calvin Ridley had 7 of his 8 catches in the first half. It was, if you're gonna like try to attack NFL secondary, then this Colts secondary is the one to attack. And so like DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart are very good players on the interior, so that's like not an easy task for Jacksonville's interior offensive line. But like I just thought there was going to be a little bit more of a downfield attack. And so the fact that there wasn't is like, if there wasn't one in week one, like, is there ever going to be one?
Hey, Trevor had the second fastest time to throw this week.
Yeah. I had that written down too. 2.43 seconds behind only Dak. And Dak, like, barely had to play quarterback.
So, I mean, it definitely kind of felt like they're like, I don't want to say, oh, because they were playing two really good defense tackles. I mean, Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner, you look back at the two Colts games last year and this game, like, they always kick the hell out of the Jaguars offensive line. But
Mhm.
pretty much every team has a dude on the defensive line. You know, like Chris Jones might not play 100% of snaps this week, but he's still going to be there. Then, you know, you get to next week, you know, Will Anderson. You get to the next week, you know, you have Grady Jarrett, and I we'll have to check in on Calais Campbell, but you know, and then, you know, you move to Buffalo, you know, obviously it goes on and on. You know, pretty much everybody you play has a guy, whether it's inside or outside. So you can't really use that excuse. So, I mean, just no, need better play there.
Yeah. Did you see Miles Garrett doing like the crossover thing over the center? Bro.
That's the most flagrant thing I've ever seen in an NFL game.
Oh my god. But that's the thing is that like hypothetically Walker Little and Anton Harrison after a couple more games to like get comfortable will be able to hold their own against most competition.
Yeah.
But then like what do you do when Miles Garrett is across from Luke Fortner?
I mean, imagine being the center and just this complete alien is about to run full speed at you, and he's literally toying with you like a lion with its feet. It's deflating. It definitely is.
Yeah. I again, like it was really cool to see Lawrence's consistency from last year being paired with kind of explosive downfield throws, but I thought there was going to be more downfield throws. And I think they could have put up more than 31 points if their offensive line had held up a little bit more. So, like as of now, I think the O line is like the only thing standing in their way from being a top 3 offense as you predicted.
Yeah, I mean, the Anton sack alone gave them, you know, potentially 3 points off the board, if not potentially seven, because they were in field goal range before a sack. The DeForest Buckner strip sack for a touchdown, you know, happened because Ben Barch got, you know, beat by DeForest Buckner. You say, yeah, you know, a lot of it goes to, you know, some of those plays at pivotal moments. Gus, you have anything else on the offense?
I had a stat written down that they had a 66.7% red zone rush success rate, which is insanely high. And so, like, I just forgot to mention that earlier. The red zone offense was like clicking on all cylinders. So that'll be a big thing to see against the Chiefs if that can carry
It
over.
no, it definitely was. It felt like that was like the smoothest the red zone offense has like looked in a little bit. And I mean, all three of their, you know, really touchdowns there were set up by, you know, plays that they were able to execute that, you know, you saw them, you know, really fail, you know, earlier in the game. Like it seemed like they tried to get Travis Etienne outside all game and it didn't really pop. Like you look at his like rushing chart from next gen stats, and it's like
Yeah.
one like tiny, like moderate run to the left and then one big run and then
Yep.
just him slamming into a wall and every other carry.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, overall, you know, the Jaguars, their rushing success rate, it was number 6 this week. I mean, 42.4 overall. I mean, that that's a little surprising, honestly.
Usually, I was just gonna say for context, usually success rates are a little bit under 40%.
Yeah,
And at one point, like especially after those 3 straight tank runs for the 3 and out, like it was like, why are they like trying to test Buckner and Stewart?
yeah,
But like eventually, like they ended up having like a pretty efficient run game. The last red zone stat I had was the Jags had negative 11.5 expected points added on late downs, so third and fourth down, and then they lost 4.4 expected points from turnovers, but they gained 9.1 expected points in the red zone. So just another way of saying the red zone was kind of the key to victory.
yeah. It absolutely was. Funniest moments of the game to me, the 3 straight tank runs after
Yeah.
the tank interception, where it kind of felt like they were like saying, "It's okay, we're not mad at you. Here's, you know, here's the ball a few times."
Yeah.
Going at some point from 2nd and 2, nearly in the red zone and in field goal range, to punting the ball. Like it was like Deonis Johnson's only carry. gets blown up for like 4 yards, and then gets sacked on the next play. You're like, right, how the hell things unravel, this quickly? And then the funniest moment of the game, in my opinion, was we'll get to it. The defense, the screenplay. I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
still, no matter how many times I see it, I can't get over really how it occurred. But we will be right back after this break to talk about that and more of the defense. Gus, we went over the offense. Now onto the defense. Go ahead, and I guess we can lead off with it. Really, I thought the only play where it was like maddeningly like, okay, what are you doing? Was Michael Pittman's screen touchdown. I after it happened, I kept being like, all right, there's got to be a flag somewhere. like it,
Right.
what was it? It was like 2nd and 22 or something like that.
I think it was 2nd and 28.
Dude,
Maybe I'm wrong, but it was definitely 2nd and 20 plus. And the thing is, like, it's not like there was like a clear missed tackle by a Jaguar or anything like that. You just couldn't even tell like where the blown assignment was really. Like Pittman just ran untouched 40 yards into the end
yeah,
zone.
yeah, it was. I mean, you look back at it, and that play definitely kind of skews Anthony Richardson's stats. It was funny. Anthony Richardson, like, it felt like threw 2 times to his left. One was an untouched screen touchdown in the most random of moments, and then one was an interception by Tyson Campbell. So, it other than that, like, it felt like the Jaguars, like the defense, really struggled last year with those type of plays, like just screens, being forced to tackle in space. And it felt like, overall, outside of a few plays and outside of that play, especially, the tackling, was improved. The missed tackles went down. They were one of the worst tackling teams, arguably, in the NFL, last year. Mike Caldwell and Doug Peterson both pointed that out as something that they wanted to fix. I mean, I thought that overall that was one of the more encouraging things, but I do think some context is needed. Obviously, Anthony Richardson's first game. Deion Jackson, I thought, had one of the worst, him and Tank Bigsby were like trying to outdo each other at times. Like Deion Jackson had just a woeful, game. Two
Too far.
turnovers.
Yeah.
Yeah. He 2 turnovers, several, failed rushes. I think he had a drop on a 3rd down on like an angle route. And I mean, the Jaguars had the best rushing defense by EPA by like almost double like the next team. So they obviously were able to destroy the Colts on the ground. The Colts, it felt like, weren't really running Anthony Richardson purposefully because they didn't want to hurt him because he's still
Mhm.
running like you would expect a rookie has to get used to hits. Like he's running like a freaking, steam engine and trying to run people over. I think that's why he got hurt late in the game.
Yeah.
Overall, no, you say something.
Sorry, I was
No,
trying Anthony Richardson had 0 attempts more than 20 yards downfield.
that's crazy.
And from 10 to 15 yards downfield, he was 3 for 8 with an interception and 3 first downs. So, like,
He was,
the Colts passing offense beyond 10 yards was, like, pretty much non-existent. And, like, I feel like his, like, biggest, like, attempt of the game was the Tyson Campbell interception. Like, that was, like, the toughest window he was trying to fit or whatever, or the farthest pass he attempted. Um, yeah, I'm interested to see, like, if the Colts kind of, like, let him loose a little bit more in the future or if they're just going to run this, like, shell of an offense for the entire season. I mean, it's pretty tough without your best offensive player and Jonathan Taylor out there. But yeah, the Colts had a 19% success rate on the ground, which was easily the worst of their week and like half of the normal success rate. So 1 out of every 5 carries were deemed like a good run for the Colts. I mean, that was just kind of the key of the game. It's just that they were like so dominant on the like early downs and against the run, and then the Colts just had nothing to offer downfield. Like they couldn't take advantage of the Jaguars stacking the box or anything like that.
yeah, I mean, the Colts scored 21 points. 7 of those were on that weird Tank Bigsby, the Forrest Buckner play.
Yeah,
7 of those came on that super weird screenplay.
yeah,
And 7 of those, came on and Anthony Richardson, running the red zone where it seemed like they were kind of able to, beat the Jaguars on some choice routes, some, RPO stuff. Anthony Richardson, for all the stats you said, was still better than I thought he'd be, honestly.
Right. Because the thing is, like, he was so raw and so inaccurate in college that you were almost like expecting like an ugly turnover or three. Uh, but like the Campbell interception certainly wasn't pretty, but it was also a good play by Campbell. And like
Yeah.
that was like kind of the only mistake I can remember him making off the top of my head. There was that one play to the tight end early in the game where it just went off the tight end's fingertips, and even though it was like a 5-yard throw, so that was another one of the funniest moments of the game. But yeah, like he played like a fairly clean game.
I thought it was going to look like Bortles.
Yeah, the Tank interception that like went off of Tank, that was a Bortles interception.
Yeah, that was bad. I mean, overall, I thought it was one of the better games, if not the best, that Fully Fadakasi has played, for the Jaguars. Roy Robinson-Harris had a really good game. It's another thing. The Jaguars' defensive line, just like the Colts' defensive line has done good against the Jags the last 2 years. The Jags' defensive line has kind of dominated this Colts, offensive line in their last 3 contests. Josh Allen, career high 3 sacks, just to, clear it. One of them was on a, chase down sack for Anthony Richardson. I think it was on the first or second drive. Roy Robinson-Harris got the initial pressure, flushed him out. Allen, really nice play to chase him down. The other two was like him like pushing him out of bounds, like behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, one of them he literally dropped into coverage and then just like came up and pushed him out of bounds, and it was for a 1-yard loss, so it was technically a sack.
And like on one hand, that's another thing. I posted the pass rush win rate at stuff yesterday. So he had 4 pressures on 34 pass rush snaps. It's not a ton of pressures, but you look at his overall impact on the game, and part of the reason I said I thought it was one of the best, like most complete games of his career. He was an absolute menace in the run game. He made several big plays, and even if he didn't have a highly efficient game as a pass rusher, still 4 important pressures against a team that wasn't dropping back very much.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like the pass rush opportunities were there very often. It felt like he could have even had, a 4 sack. He had Anthony Richardson in his grasp. Anthony Richardson looks like, to me, he's probably going to be one of the hardest quarterbacks in the NFL to take down.
Definitely.
So I thought Josh Allen still, had a really, really good game. He was, like some of the plays he made as the backside, edge player crashing against the run.
Yeah.
Were some of the most violent like plays of the game. And I think it kind of makes a statement, to the rest of the team when, one of your guys is making plays like that. So I thought he had an impressive game. And then, Trayvon Walker, he had fewer pass rushes than Josh Allen. He had 2, fewer reps than Josh Allen. But I thought overall, 4 pressures, 16.7% win rate. You saw him loop inside a few times. You saw him get a sack before half. I thought it was a more effective game from Walker than you saw most of the time last year. I mean, it was, one of the probably 4th, maybe 5th most efficient game he's had, in his career so far. So it wasn't Aiden Hutchinson against the Chiefs, but it was a good game.
I mean, he did have one more sack than Hutchinson had against the Chiefs.
That's true. That's true. And they all count. They all count. They all count.
But yeah, I think Trayvon hasn't taken the step, but he did take a step because like his get off and just his comfort in the defense seemed to improve a lot. And there were certainly some times where he would rush the passer and kind of just like get held up by the tackle and not be able to shed a block at all. But like there was definitely a clear improvement from last year. And like he did the same thing that Josh did a couple of times where like as the backside defender on a run play that went to the opposite side, just like an incredible tackle in the backfield. So I was pretty encouraged by Trayvon. And then Josh Allen was like the best player on the field with his career high in sacks. He led the team in tackles for loss with 3. He also tied for the team lead with 8 solo tackles, which is pretty rare to see like a non-linebacker or safety be up there. Yeah. So Josh had an awesome game. Trayvon had an encouraging game. And then like all the guys in the middle of them, like were really like the unsung heroes of the game, I think, between Roy Robertson-Harris, Fatukazi, even like Ledbetter and like Blackburn and like whoever all of these like guys off the street are, like they all had like good reps and good plays. So like it really starts with the defensive line, but Tyson Campbell was credited with like allowing 4 catches, but off the top of my head, like I don't remember him like allowing like a single contested catch. I wonder if those are all just like catches
His
where he
own.
happened to be the closest defender because
Yeah.
he had a couple really nice open field tackles, the interception. Darius Williams had a quiet game in a good way where he didn't really let up a lot and had 1 or 2 really good pass breakups.
Yeah, late in the game.
And then to me, like maybe the most impressive player not named Josh Allen was Andre Cisco because he made another like he had one awesome open field tackle on like the Colts' like only rushing play of more than 10 yards. But like on the first play, he like flew in on the screen to make the tackle with Trey Herndon. He was just like flying all around all over the place. Like we talked about wanting to see, or at least I did, the confidence boost in year 2 from Devin Lloyd and Trayvon Walker. But it seems like there's a big confidence boost for Andre Cisco in his 3rd year. He he seems like a good player.
He do the speed he flew around the field on Sunday, and like some of the tackles he was making as the deep safety, like
Right.
filling in. He had a crazy game. He really did. Like I'm with you. I think he was up there with Josh Allen as the best player, on the field when he was out there. Like he lost on one choice route to Josh Downs like early in the game. I think on Anthony Richardson's first touchdown drive. And other than that,
Mhm.
he was literally everywhere. And he's probably going to see his fair amount of penalties and fines, just
Yeah.
for the way he plays. But it definitely feel like he's taken that, really that next step. So I'm definitely with you. I thought, for I had a bunch of people like tweeting at me like, with Allen and Walker, 4 sacks, 8 pressures combined, good showing between them. Like you said, the pass rush was going to suck, go to hell, F your mother, stuff like that, etc. Yeah, not some of those last ones, but I still contend that my issue always was the pass rush stuff behind them, and then
Right.
I think you saw late in the game when Trayvon Walker played like 85% of the snaps. Like that's not normal,
That's not good, man. I feel like Abdullah went into the game less because the Jags wanted to see what he had and more
This
because, like,
game
they just had to put someone else in the game.
game
Because
was over. Yeah, like game was over, and Trayvon needed a breather.
yeah,
That's what it was. He played 6 snaps. 5 of those were pass rushes. I think they were all passing plays. 5 pass rushes. He had a nice pressure. Nice little inside move against the right tackle.
yeah,
Chase on. I think I don't have his exact snaps in front of me, but I know he had 14 pass rush snaps and overall, wasn't able to record a pressure. Part of that is the position that he plays on the defense. Like he's the backup strong side outside linebacker. So when he is in there, a lot of plays, he's kind of restricted in what he can do. But okay, here we go. He played 31% of snaps. He played 22 snaps, rushed the passer on 14 of them, didn't record a pressure. I did notice he was spying Richardson a few times, like on Allen's sack in the first half. He was spying him,
mm.
but like you obviously can't, unhonk that horn. But you go back and
I've
you
never heard that one before.
no,
That's good.
thank you. You look at what Arden Key did to Penning, and you look at what you got from that role this week, and they did need the one Smoot to come back ready to
I was
roll.
about to say, like, Dwan Smoot's gonna be the savior because, like, we've talked about, like, the depth being a concern if Allen or Trayvon got hurt because it's like, now what? But even if they don't get hurt, even if they are both don't miss a game for the entire season, like we saw in week 1 with Trayvon especially, like, you just can't, like, have your number 1, number 2 guys playing that many snaps. People, like, build deep pass rotations for a reason to, like, keep fresh, edge rushers like available. And so the Jaguars have some fresh edge rushers, but like they don't really do a lot. And so that's going to start to matter like this week against a much better passer and Patrick Mahomes, but then also like down the stretch of the season once like there's some wear and tear on everyone's bodies.
All right, so last year Trayvon Walker played 77% of snaps. He played 85% in week 1. In Nick Bosa's career, he's played 77% of snaps or more in just one season. And he has, really kind of averaged out at 74, 75, percentage snaps, kind of what you saw from Trayvon last year when you had guys like Arden Key and DeJuan Smoot who can spell him. So I like just that amount of snaps isn't really, sustainable.
No, it's not. I don't think I have anything else on the defense.
Mike Caldwell, I thought, called a good game. There weren't many moments. Some nice pressures. Trey Herndon had a nice game. He got 2 pressures, some nice tackles in space. I thought Foye Oluokun had a solid outing. The defense, in my opinion, played well. It was a good showing from them. To me, maybe the most impressive play was when Indianapolis tried to hurry up into a QB sneak on 4th down, thinking the Jaguars weren't going to be organized. They could just get a free play. And the Jaguars instantly, lined up, knew what to do, and kind of stuffed it. To me, that shows guys who are comfortable with each other, it's second year in a system, knowing what to do in that situation. That to me is where you can kind of see the benefit of keeping, the system and everything kind of in place for second year. I thought it was kind of what you wanted to see from Mike Caldwell and his unit in week 1. And I really don't think, probably could have gone any better for the defense. I mean, they 0-3 held the Colts 0-3 on 4th down.
Yeah, I was just looking that up.
What, three takeaways, Tyson's interception, his forced fumble, and then Andre Sisco's forced fumble. I mean, it was to me as good as you wanted to see from the defense against that specific team.
Yeah. Honestly, the only thing is the asterisk is with the opposition and not with the Jaguars, because we talked about how the second half of last season, the Jags defense performed really well, but it was also against a slate of fake quarterbacks like Davis Mills and Zach Wilson, for the most part, at least, and Justin Herbert without Mike Williams, etc. So, rookie quarterback without really much weapons. They did what they were supposed to do, just like the offense kind of did what they were supposed to do by eventually scoring 30-plus points. So the real test for Mike Caldwell and the whole unit will definitely be this week. I'm probably most looking forward to Mike Caldwell against the Bengals and Joe Burrow, just because it seems like Joe Burrow has struggled a little bit with rotating coverages and exotic blitzes and stuff like that between last week against the Browns and then also 2, if not 3 games against the Ravens last year with their defense coordinator, Mike McDonald. So I'm looking forward to Mike Caldwell against the Bengals, but the Chiefs is as good of a test there is.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will get into all of that on Friday morning. Yeah, there's the cheese. Take the bait. Take the bait. Dance for me. Dance. All right. Gus, you got anything else, actually go back to the hot takes for the week. Let's see
okay.
How we
do. Yeah. Well, so I got a hot take written down for this week too. I don't know if you do, but last week I said Calvin Ridley would score a first quarter touchdown.
Yeah.
That was
yeah. You're right.
For some hot take earlier. I don't know. You said Trayvon was going to get 7.5 sacks in the season. You talked well about Calvin Ridley, Jags top 3 passing offense DVOA.
I said Shaq Leonard would be the worst linebacker on the field. He kind of was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's the one you wanted. That was at the top. Shaq, worst linebacker. I mean, it's probably between him and Devin Lloyd. I don't even think Devin Lloyd had a bad game, but off the top of my head.
Same.
But the other 2 Colts linebackers were pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Speed and Franklin.
Okay. I feel good about that one. Yeah. Go ahead and shoot your hot take off for this week. I got one.
Okay. My hot take is that Chris Jones will have more pressures than Travis Kelce will have catches in week 2. Because basically what I mean by that is I'm a lot more scared of Chris Jones in this matchup than I am of Travis Kelce. Chris Jones missed week 1 from a contract holdout, but he signed a new deal yesterday on Monday to stay in Kansas City for the year. And he almost single-handedly won both Chiefs games last year. And we just got finished talking about how we're concerned about the Jags interior line after they got kind of killed by Buckner and Stewart. So Chris Jones is you're going to see his name a lot on Sunday. But then for Travis Kelce, he definitely had a big part in both the Chiefs wins last year as well. But I'm less confident in him having a really big game, partly because he's coming off of an injury instead of a contract holdout. So he's expected to play in week 2, but it's not for sure. And then also, like, I just have more trust in like Devin Lloyd and Andre Cisco at this time than I did last year to do a better job of helping to slow him down.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'd really like to see them press Kelsey at the line of scrimmage and just make him as uncomfortable as possible. Because I remember at least in the Bucs Super Bowl win against the Chiefs, like Levante David would kind of like press up on Kelsey, not really give him any space, and it disrupted timing big time between Kelsey and Mahomes. And like pressing Travis Kelsey is so much easier said than done, but like just finding a way to make Kelsey uncomfortable, I think, is pretty big for week 2.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would think doing that with Rayshon Jenkins would probably be, really the way to go. You don't see not Devin Lloyd. You don't see Andre Cisco in a lot of one-on-ones with tight ends, at least compared to, Rayshon Jenkins. That'll be, I think, one of the bigger matchups to watch.
I agree with it. Like, I definitely agree that it'll be Rayshon on the job more than Cisco, but like just the times that Cisco is involved, like I've
For sure.
confidence is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, 100%. My hot take is I'm going to save a Chiefs hot take for Friday. My hot take in general is Matt Ryan, New York Jets.
Oh, okay.
4-13.
Matt Ryan. What was
Matt
the last
Ryan.
thing you
4-13.
said?
4-13. I have no words for what kind of season they are about to. They hired Nate Hackett literally for Aaron Rodgers, and literally Nate Hackett's offense is Aaron Rodgers called to play at the line of scrimmage.
Yes. Yeah, that's so true. Like in Hard Knocks, there was a clip of Zach Wilson saying like, "Oh, like there's a crazy amount of like control at the line of scrimmage. Like Aaron can just like change it to anything he wants," which like that didn't necessarily like confirm it, or I guess that did kind of confirm it, but we already knew before that. I mean,
yeah.
But yeah, like on the Manning cast last night when Wilson was in the game, like Eli was like early in the third quarter, Eli says, "Peyton, how many times do you think they're going to let Zach Wilson throw the ball again?" And Peyton Manning just like says blank face 3 times. He's so disgusted. It was incredible.
He starts dropping backwards, and Peyton's like, "Yeah, let's go backwards."
Yeah,
it was a good bit. It was a good bit. I'm excited for the Manning cast and the Jaguars.
Oh man,
good stuff. Gus, you got anything else before we hop off until Friday?
We were gonna do game balls. You want just?
Oh yeah. Let's go.
All right. For offense, I'll go Press Taylor. No, just kidding. I'll go Trevor Lawrence for the reasons I outlined earlier. Just combining his down-to-down efficiency from last year with explosiveness. Now that Ridley is here, like everything that I was looking for in week 1, I saw, minus like the 2 ugly turnovers, but that was more.
Yeah.
And then for defense, like Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to him.
I'm going to purposely pick against you and go Calvin Ridley and Andre Cisco. I mean, their best players on the team are the guys who played the best on like Sunday, and I think that's what you need to see. Like their stars played like stars, and their young guys who they really want to ascend played like guys who are ascending, like Tyson Campbell and Andre Cisco. You mentioned Tyson, both had great games like that. That 2021 class, man, it is carrying that team right now. I mean, I'm doing like a weekly rookie like check-in, like how the rookies play that week, and it's literally like, so the first 3 picks and you see Abdullah, and then everybody else practice squad injured. It's like a 14-person class, and more people are even like making any kind of difference.
No, but you're right. The 2021 class is definitely big time. The other game ball I was considering handing out was to Zay Jones, because we didn't really talk about him when we talked about Kirk earlier, but like part of the reason that Kirk isn't getting close to 90% of the snaps is because the Jaguars coaching staff and their quarterback has clear trust in Zay Jones, and he made probably the play of the game with that like end zone grab. So like Zay is definitely a big part of the offense and had a really big game.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we didn't mention it. I don't know if they win that game without Jamal Agnews.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was so big.
It's probably a time to change his role on offense, but at the very least, the special teams, it looked good.
It looked really good. He went from the 5 to the opposing 45
That's
in the
crazy.
fourth quarter. Like, I
That
think he
offense was not going 95 yards.
I think he generated like 2 point something expected points added on that one punt return, which basically means like that punt return is worth 2 out of the Jaguars' 7 points that they scored on the drive.
I buy that.
If anything, like, I mean, he got them like halfway down the field. It probably could be more, just
Yeah,
objectively.
yeah, I'm with you.
But yeah,
Well,
I'm glad you shouted out Agnew because that was huge.
yeah. You got anything else until Friday?
No, I'll see you then.
Yes, sir. We'll be back bright and early Friday morning to preview Jaguars versus the Chiefs. The name in the blank bank. No, the game in the blank bank. Dang it. All right. I'll have that ready for Friday. I still don't have the sign up on the front. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. It is a faceless mask. That's the only way to put that. Update the signage for Sunday. That's my take.
I
That's
didn't.
my hot take for the
I
week.
was there with you yesterday. I didn't notice at all.
It's been for like the last month. Open your eyes and smell the roses, guys.
All right, we'll do.
All right. Do that for Friday. All right. Thank you for listening. See you guys Friday.